Welcome in, Lynn. Welcome, everybody. How is everyone doing tonight? It's Sunday night. If you guys haven't been aware, yes, it is Super Bowl Sunday. Rich and Darla, thank you guys for coming in tonight. Ben, always a pleasure. Laird, Franbrand, welcome in. Hope you guys are all doing well. I'm glad to see that the Super Bowl is not drawing you away, and you guys are still coming in to talk to me, Mr. America, the Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon, Lioness, welcome. Hope you guys have all been well. Tonight we are going to be doing a lot of recaps. There's been a lot of stories that we hit on originally when they hit the mainstream, but we gotta come full circle on them, right? We gotta close these things out. It's not welcome in. It's not good to have just an open-ended story and not to finish them out, right? We got to follow them through. So thank you guys for joining in on Periscope, National welcome in, and we gotta thank you guys for joining in on the YouTube world as well. It's been an exciting weekend. A lot of people have been ramped up. A lot of people have been excited about things. A lot of controversies are still going on, and a lot of attempts to pivot. And these are the things that we really got to work against. So, one moment while I finish up sharing this out on the Facebook world. Georgia Peach, welcome in. Thank you for the invite. Going live right now. All right. So tonight we're going to talk. I want to start off first before we get into all the recaps. I want to get into a comical side of things. I want to get into the funny side of things. Right. Let's start it off nice and light, and then we will get into the heavy hitting things. In Detroit, there was an undercover police posing as a drug buyer, and they were arrested by undercover police posing as drug dealers. Yes, that's right. We had police setting up a deal against other police officers. And thankfully, this one did not go awry like the same one that happened back in the 80s. But nonetheless, to see an event here in Detroit and to watch this unfold, there is a video. I'm going to go ahead and tweet it out right now. So if you guys do want to check this out, check into the feed, the Twitter feed at Mr. Bearded Truth after the show, and you'll be able to check this out. But nonetheless, so over there in Detroit, you had the basic premise behind how you get an undercover operation going is you don't just grab officers from the force and you go, all right, today you're going to be undercover, and you go in and you you don't just go in and become an undercover cop for the day, right? This is something that takes a while, even for an operation like this. And so you have both sets of cops. They were from different districts. One was from district or precinct, the 12th precinct, and the other one was the 11th precinct. So the 12th precinct was the drug dealers. They had their little house. They had their operation going. They were just trying to bring in some guys that were going to buy drugs, sell them the drugs, and then apprehend them after the fact for going through these consensual transactions. And the 11th district was like, hey, we're going to go find some drug dealers. So we're going to pose as a bunch of guys just looking to get some drugs. We want to go and clean off these guys that are doing these atrocious deals for the American citizens. So you had both of them not really filing their paperwork, as what the initial expression from the police chief was. So they weren't filing and making sure that they both were well known as to what their operatives were. And it turns out that when the undercover cops who were the drug buyers showed up to the drug dealer's house, the other undercover cops, there was an altercation. There was actual fists thrown at each other. There was violence being committed at each other, but nobody was shot. Like I said, during the early 80s, there was another one in which there were 2 police officers killed, one from each side on that. So this one, it just resulted in minor injuries, nothing major. But nonetheless, this is a huge egg on the face of the Detroit 11th and 12th precincts, and you can't look at this and just think of like an old comedy show, thinking of like, the Three Stooges, where you're trying to do something and you end up hurting your own side, you keep hurting yourself, and that you got to start off with a good story like this. It just shows that they aren't necessarily working in their best interest. But nonetheless, if we got rid of the war on drugs, that might be a better situation. So let's go back to the recaps. Start off with a comical thing. So we've been following there in Virginia, Ralph Northam, who is the governor of Virginia, and that whole entire debacle, right? So it started off really from Delegate Tran putting out her bill that was going to enable abortion even during the times of dilation, right? Even when the times of a fetus, a viable fetus sliding through the birth canal would be a time that would allow for the physician or whoever to abort said baby. So her bill created a large amount of controversy, and Ralph, who really wasn't following the story, so he said, was on a public radio and said some pretty reprehensible things himself, and basically said, look, if we kind of have a baby that's not really fully viable, or we'll resuscitate the baby, right? So they tried to abortion and they failed to, so they'll resuscitate the baby, make the baby comfortable, and then have a discussion with the parent on if we want to allow the baby to live or not, right? So he said that. And what's come out from that is that there's people from the same medical school that he went to were outraged by this, and so they had notified the local media to say, hey, here's a picture of him. Here's a picture from the yearbook, and that picture had one individual with blackface, one individual with KKK hood on, and that sparked up a large amount of controversy. So Northam, first day, comes out and says, yeah, that's not a depiction of who I am anymore. I apologize. I understand that it's insensitive. I understand it's racist. I understand people would should be outraged over this, right? I'm right on your side. But he refused to resign, despite the calls from both Democrats and Republicans and independents across the country. So he maintained in office. The next day, he decided, I really don't think that was me anymore. So he comes out and he says, that's not me. That's not me. Ignore what I said yesterday. Ignore what I said yesterday. That's not me. That was never me. I don't know how that picture got there. And tries to pull a little bit of the ignorance card. So that created enough of a controversy. Then he continues on, and during a press conference, explains the one time in which he did use blackface. So he admits to utilizing blackface in the past, and that was for a dance competition. So he was trying to bust a move and show off his good skills, and the way that he was going to do that was by using to replicate, to emulate the great Michael Jackson. And so he dressed up as Michael Jackson, did blackface for it, and one of the reporters, this is where it's just purely comedic, and it shows a lack of sensitivity to the severity of this topic. One of the reporters had asked him, well, are you still able to do the moonwalk? And his response was absolutely comical. It showed a lack of maturity. It showed a lack of compassion and care for the topic at hand. He looks around. You can see in his eyes that he sees an area off to his right that he would have adequate room for him to get up and to bust out the moonwalk. And he looks around, and off to his left is his wife, and he looks over at her, and you can see in his eyes, you can see when the question was asked, you can see when he's looking to his right, that he had been practicing his entire life. He'd been working up his entire life. He went through politics. He fought through, got campaign donations. He got endorsements. He passed legislation. He made sure he did the right thing to lead him up to this point in his life where he would be sitting in front of a reporter having an interview that was being televised, that would hopefully be syndicated, in which he would be able to bust out those moves, bust out those fresh moonwalking steps for everyone to see across this country. And he looks off to his left, and his wife says, this would not be a good circumstance. This would be inappropriate circumstances, was the terms that she used. And you can just see all of that emotion, all of that love, all of that, I've worked for this my entire life, just become deflated. He now looked like a kid who had just lost his brand new balloon. He looked like a kid that just watched his puppy get kicked or get ran over. He was so deflated. He was so hurt. He was so distraught. And, hopefully this is the other lesson that that Ralph is learning, is that you don't, this is not something that you get so entirely worked up and excited over, just merely moonwalking. But of course, there's a bigger tragedy here, of course. There's a bigger problem here, and that is that these pictures are what is causing people so much controversy over. This is what people are focusing on, is these pictures. Now, certainly, right, blackface is disgusting. Certainly, KKK is reprehensible. Certainly, those are things that no one should be proud of if you were involved with in the past, and if you were, right, having that be put out should certainly be something you have to be held accountable for in some regards. And so, certainly, an explanation is certainly desired. But we're in a country right now where that is more reprehensible, that is more disgusting, that is more controversial, that will quickly get you removed from office, as opposed to what his statements were on the radio, which he also went after the day after and supported. So he wasn't saying, look, it was wrong of me to say that. He continued to support his infanticide. So he has this view, and that's it. And it bothers me. It bothers me. It burns me to my core that is not what people are outraged over. But instead, what people are outraged over is this picture from 30 years ago. If that's where your controversy is if that's where your anger comes from, I think that it really speaks to a tweet that I just recently put out just before the show, in which, if you want to be outraged over, well, here, let me pose this in the proper way. When you see pro-choice people, when you see people that are in favor of abortion, when you see people that defend abortion, that are advocates for abortion and for the woman to be able to make this choice, oftentimes one of the arguments that they use is they say it doesn't affect you when they have an abortion. It doesn't affect you when they have an abortion. And it's amazing to me when you see, oh, he already deleted the tweet. That's cute. Or he blocked me. One of the two. But it amazes me when people say something like that, but then at the same time, they will come out and go after racism. They will go after people that are being attacked because of the race of their skin, or the color of their skin, because of their ethnicity, or whatever it is, right? And certainly there's a core principle there that is just atrocious, right? If you want to go after people for being racist, I'm right there with you. I am right there with you. I will lock my arms in with you and stand against the oppression of people based on the color of their skin. 100% right in lockstep with you. But when you say that the abortions don't personally affect you, how does the racism personally affect you if it's against people not of your skin color? So your argument there doesn't hold any water. Now, I stand against the racism. I stand against people being victimized, of people being oppressed because of the color of their skin. And I also stand against people being victimized. I stand against people being oppressed because they haven't passed through the birth canal. I stand against the atrocities that are being committed against people, regardless of where they are in their life. If they're an innocent being in this in that situation. And so there's just a lack of standing. There's truly a level of hypocrisy there, and certainly a level of cognitive dissonance that needs to be addressed. And it does look like he did block me. It was Phil Klinkner. I don't even. He was supposed to be some kind of bigwig dude. 40,000 or 4,000 followers. He wasn't no one big, but nonetheless. Saw a fair point. It's more than the war on only men don't allow their fathers to say. Exactly. And we'll go into the entire pro-choice, pro-life discussions and try to involve even that one as well. Welcome in, Irish. I stand against politics during the Super Bowl. That's fine. I've got to keep it going nonetheless. I'm really mad that this post isn't wanting to share on Facebook. But so that entire situation, it's disgusting to see people try to say that they stand up against atrocities, but then they're okay with other atrocities. They're okay with ending the life of an innocent being. They're okay with that. So it's my call. It's my call to everyone out there. If you're in favor of being pro-life, but you're against racism, or in favor of racism being allowed, which I don't think anyone here is, I would certainly hope not, but we have to call them out. And if you're against the racism, but you're in favor of abortion, right, you should stand against that one as well, right? We can go through the Margaret Sanger beginning. We can go through what the entire discussion of what abortion was supposed to be for, and that was genocide of the minorities. And we can go through all of that to understand that both of these things are atrocious. Both of these things are absolutely repugnant and need to be removed from our country, from our society. Yes, exactly. We're all the same inside regardless of color. Yes, absolutely. And so that is something that we got to come through, and we will come back to this pro-life, pro-choice discussion. I will open up the phone line, and certainly I want you guys, regardless of which side you're on, I don't want this to be something where we're vilifying each other, but I want to actually have an honest conversation. So if you guys are pro-choice, please do let me know when we do open up the phone lines, because I want you to call in. I want to have an actual back and forth and be able to discuss things, because I think that my side is the moral side. I think my side is the right side, and I think that certainly a discussion would be much better than just talking past each other. If you're pro-life and you got something else that maybe I haven't hit on, bring that up as well. I want us to be as informed as possible. I want to bring this level of intelligence to a populace that is so readily available to us now that we all have our phones, now that we all have this technology in front of us. We can understand this stuff, we can learn this stuff, and we can get past the atrocities of old. And that's going to be the big push. Now, I want to transition from the racism, from the abortion, and I want to go to the MAGA side of things, right? So if you guys remember back the Covington Catholic school kids over there from the March for Our Life, I love how this comes back to abortion once again. But the March for Our Life situation, the Nick Sandmann's attorney is filing lawsuits. I believe the number was 54 lawsuits are coming for libel, and I want to go through that real quick. I want to go through a handful of them. So this is from the Inquisitor, from the WKRC TV Cincinnati reports. Todd McCurdy, who is their lawyer, and his team are researching the early media coverage of the January incident, looking to see which news organizations will be receiving paperwork from his office, according to the Cincinnati Enquirer. Already a handful of these libel charges, of these libel lawsuits, have made the cut. Those include to the New York Times, CNN, GQ, TMZ, politician Elizabeth Warren, senator from Massachusetts, actress Alyssa Milano, that wonderful loony lefty, individual journalists such as Maggie Haberman, Anna Cabrera, David Brooks, and even some of Sandmann's own allies, his Kentucky diocese, and various officials within will be hearing from the attorney and hearing from these lawsuits. I think that this is certainly the right thing, because when we have a situation like what happened there, where the media jumped the gun and they spun the narrative, they spun the web, and got everybody caught up on their side. And this was one where when it initially broke out, we saw people coming out and being visceral with their attacks, with their hatred, and with their denouncing of these MAGA kids for merely wearing the MAGA hats. When we saw that, a couple days later, I've never seen so many retractions being made. Honest, sincere retractions saying, I fucked up. And I apologize for using that word. But they said, I have messed up severely by jumping the gun. I failed the test, and certainly this is reprehensible. Now, those people who retracted, they're not going to, I guarantee you, they will not be seeing these lawsuits. But it's the people that stood by and that they were like, no, the initial reports, the initial cut up video, the shortened condensed video, that is all that there was to it. And they continued these attacks. They said it was a referendum on Trump. They said that it was a referendum on all people that are MAGA, all people that are supporters of Trump, all people that are Republicans, and so that they get in the face of not only Native Americans, not only Black Israelites, but of any person of minority ethnicity, or any minority group, or anyone else that opposes them. They will get in their face and be just absolute degenerates. These are the people that really, the facts don't matter. It's all about their feelings. And so it's nice to see that we're actually seeing some pushback. It's nice to see this lawyer coming out and his team and really pushing back and fighting against the media as a whole, and saying, you guys need to make sure you guys are doing your job right. Because when you fail to do your job, it is actual people that receive death threats. It is an entire school that closes down because they're receiving bomb threats, because they're receiving death threats, because they're receiving threats of otherwise violence. When the kids are being doxxed by not only journalists but by news organizations as a whole, and so you're inviting more of this violence and you're inviting more of this destruction. Certainly it there's a call there that it needs to be it needs to be handled. It needs to be resolved. And I'm so thankful for this lawyer and his team for doing this. It's much needed, because we have to fight against this, right? When you guys know me, I don't use the quotes of Trump a lot. I don't use like the ideas that Trump uses a lot. But when it comes to the media, I think that President Trump was really spot on when he said that the media is the enemy of the people. And this is one of those situations where the outcry needs to be that they do their damn job the first time. They need to do their job the first time. So you wait for the facts. You may release a story with the information that comes out, right? I'm not going to go after the people who came out with this information right away. But when you come out the first time and you're absolutely wrong and more evidence comes out, you have to make a redaction. You have to remove the wrong information that you did. You have to actually take a stand and stand for journalism and for objectivity. It needs to go away. And yeah, we'll go through the Jussie Smollett here in a little bit. So on that front, right? The media has been the enemy of the people. They've been failing so much. It's disgusting. So Bravo Zulu, thank you, congratulations. I hope that Sandman wins a lot of these cases, if not all of the cases. I hope that somehow we can work towards clearing his name, clearing the name of the Covington Catholic Church school. I'm hoping that the death threats, the bomb threats, and all the threats that are against them and their families and the workers and everyone else goes away. It really does need to go away, because it's absolutely disgusting and it's absolutely reprehensible. I do want to go back to, or not back to, I want to go to the Jussie Smollett situation. So he has finally come out and he's made his announcement. He said that he's okay. There's been a lot more questions than answers that have been raised about him, right? When you're attacked by two people and you've been allegedly attacked by two people, had bleach poured on you and had a noose wrapped around you, the question of why it is that no one has been able to really be identified, that's certainly a big question. when you have no identifiable traits about these people other than the fact that they were saying MAGA country in Chicago at 2 a.m. in the morning. That raised another question. When you still manage to have your sandwich at the end of this, there's a lot of this. There's a lot of this that spurred a lot of questions, and it. I don't want to say that it's impossible or he's wrong or he's lying or anything else. But when it comes to this, it's really, it really hurts your case. And for somebody that is looking for the truth on this stuff, it doesn't give you a feel good. It doesn't give you a feel good. And so as we don't have the information, we don't have information to the negative, right? You can't prove a negative. So I won't say it didn't happen, but I will leave it as an alleged attack. But I don't think that there's enough there in order to vindicate his story in that entire situation. There's just so much there that poses so many questions, and it just doesn't add up yet. It just does not add up. I see that there's comments about murder versus killing. I want to see this. All right, I'll have to come back to that. Yes, murder and killing are two separate things. Murder is illegal killing. Killing is not inherently illegal. So if you're in a state that has legalized the death penalty and they utilize the death penalty against somebody, that is a killing. That is not a murder. A murder is illegal by definition, which is why abortion is killing. It is not murder. It should be murder, but it is not. And we will, of course, go back to the pro-choice, pro-life discussion there as well. There was one other story that I wanted to cover with you guys. Let me see if I can grab that one real quick. Uh-oh. Calling BS on the subway guy. Yeah, I'm not willing to take that stand yet, but it is certainly there on the table. It is not, his story has not been vindicated to be able to give this. I'm pro sailor. Does that count? I'm down with the pro sailor. I don't get how you legislate abortion. Okay. So I can't find the other story. I did a quick search. I apologize. I'll probably find it up later up in the show. I want to know if you guys are pro-choice. If any of you out there right now, any of you in the viewership world, whether you're on Periscope or you're on YouTube, thank you for coming in nonetheless. But if you're pro-choice, give me a call. Phone number is 802-671-5328. I want to have an actual discussion. I don't want to talk past each other. I want to actually have a discussion. And if we can't spur up a conversation there, I'm sure that there's somebody out there that is anti-gun. If you're anti-gun, if you're in favor of gun control, if you're in favor of this, that, or the other, you can also call in on that. So if you're pro-choice or pro-gun control, feel free to call in. Cross-platform chat. Yes, absolutely. Feel free to call in, guys. Phone number again is 802-671-5328. I will be here waiting for your call. Actually, I probably put it in my title. Didn't I? Let me check that. VA issues, Ralph Northam. Yep. Here's another part of the Northam situation that I really wanted to hit on for people, and that is a disgusting tactic that has been utilized by the left and is now seemingly being used by the right, and that is that if somebody does something egregious, somebody does something nasty, or something that you disagree with politically, certainly Northam is doing just that. It doesn't give you the grounds to go and dig through their past and try to find up dirt, throw it out there without the context, throw it out there and just to try to slander and destroy someone's name, right? I think that certainly the Northam situation is not a good situation, his yearbook page specifically, but certainly it is not grounds to really dig through that past and certainly in that way. Hey, welcome in. You're live. Who's this?
How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. And yourself?
I'm pretty good.
So what stance you want to take?
take a pro-choice stance.
Okay.
So my thing is with that, you know how there every year or every 4 years there's a census? We should have a yearly thing where they ask what you do and what you don't want your taxes to go towards, right?
Yes.
And after you do that, if it's in the budget, cool. If it's not in the budget, then we don't offer that to citizens. It's not up to guys to tell women what to do with their body. If they do something, that's in between them and God, just like homosexuals. It's not for us to tell them, hey, you can't do what you do. That's up in between you and God when you get up there, or the doctor and the woman when they get up. Final judgment day.
Okay, so with that premise, right, that we don't get to tell people what to do, it's between them and God. How do you differentiate that between them killing somebody that's not inside of a womb? Is there a differentiation between that and inside the womb? And if not, why? Or if so, why?
Oh, well, you definitely need to have like a discussion with doctors and Surgeon General where they push out a certain regulation of a limit of time where you can't do it after, and if you sign off to your taxpayers to pay for that, or if you don't, if your taxpayers pay for it, it only pays for the legal doctors to do that up to a certain period of time. After that,
okay, so right now with most states, it's the point of viability, right? At the end of the second trimester, you think that's a justifiable time, or what time would you like to see be imparted?
No, I think it definitely needs to be like 6 weeks is like the limit.
6 weeks?
Yeah, it definitely needs to be taken care of before that. If they procrastinate, that's on them.
Okay, so I can actually agree with you in a lot of ways, because that would be moving it back for a lot of states, and certainly right here in South Carolina where I am, we have legislators pushing for a heartbeat bill, which is the heartbeat begins at between 6 and 8 weeks, and I think that would be a much better position than where we are right now, as opposed to what New York and Virginia have done. And I think that there's certainly merit to that, because I want to see the slide move to the right. But even when it comes to the tax portion, right, the first part that you were talking about, I don't think that, are you in favor of taxpayers paying for this action?
Oh, no, that's why whenever you're filling out your taxes yearly,
yep.
Have like an option or something that says, do you want your taxes to go towards that?
Yeah.
And if you say yes, then there's a certain amount of money in the U.S. government to pay for that.
Yep.
If that amount of money is not reached, then the U.S. government tells citizens, sorry, we cannot offer that program at the time because you're not going to utilize money that could be used for something else.
Yeah.
Or something that is not as needy as like national defense or schools or stuff like that.
No, I disagree with the schools part, but nonetheless, I think that would be a move to the better direction, certainly. But at the same time, I still would even disagree with it on the grounds that having the government be the middleman, right? Because for example, if we took every Hillary Clinton supporter or voter in the 2016 election, if every single one of the voters for Hillary Clinton were to put up $20 to Planned Parenthood, that would provide more funding than what the federal government does each year. And I think that certainly that speaks to the idea that it should never be government funded. So if we want to keep government entirely out of it, I think that there's much more of a fruitful discussion there, and then we can talk about the merits of the morality, or if it should be between you and God or not, or whatever. But I think that certainly there's no justification as to why the government should be a middleman on that.
I mean, I definitely understand that, but if it's more privatized, then that money is not going to be adequately utilized. People are going to be getting paid more. Whoever's running that company is going to be taking that money for themselves, and we're having like higher salaries and stuff like that, rather than utilizing that money directly for what the programs are for set up. Yeah.
I mean, that's just the natural thing. Whenever the government's the middleman, they're going to take more money out, and that also causes the private side to be more expensive. Yes, Bobby 46. Yes, Clinton. Really, if everyone voted, yes. Yes. So I think it's difficult for us to have like a radicalized discussion on this. I think that the basis behind what you've been saying is certainly you of course are not somebody that is coming out with bombastic rhetoric or coming out and just saying, you know, abort them up to the time that they take their first breath or anything. But I think that you and I both would agree that the current laws in most of the states that allow it past the point of what you said are wrong in allowing abortions to be committed much further along than what should be allowed, right?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely should be 6 weeks, like coming from my medical background.
Okay.
It should be 6 weeks, and if you don't take care of it within 6 weeks, with just like more than enough time for you to take off work, whatever you need to do, like for them to do what they need to do before like an actual heartbeat.
Would you have any caveats for that? Would you have any instances in which you believe that an abortion could be allowed past that time?
I mean, yeah, if it's like threatening to the mom, essentially.
So if it's a threat to the mom,
threatening to her.
Okay, so
but that's a very like very rare situation.
Not only is it a super rare instance, it's less than. I think it's about 0.4% of the abortions that are being committed right now. But even within those, because we are a first world country, we are not a third world country. Those children, they're at actually a time of viability. We label the viability at the end of the second trimester, like I said before. But the actual point of viability is getting shorter and shorter, and at those points, you can actually surgically remove the child and save both the mother and the child's life. And so I think even on those grounds, there's really not much statistical or scientific information to back that claim.
Yeah, I mean, we'd definitely have to get together all the medical professors at like universities, the church in general, and they'd have to like definitely agree on like some basis of that to have what is allowed and what isn't allowed, and certain exemptions.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you for calling in, man. I'm glad that this was, you know, it was a nice civilized discussion. I'm glad that we both can agree with some things and move forward on this. So I want to thank you for calling in tonight, man.
No problem.
All right. Have a good night, man. All right. So that is, you guys see, it's not. We're not trying to have arguments. We're not trying to have like a hateful, bombastic, just throwing insults at each other here, right? We're trying to have growth. Bobby says Clinton is a private citizen. That was not even within the premise of what the discussion was. The premise was that Clinton, when she ran for presidency, if every single one of her voters, everyone who pulled the lever for Hillary Clinton would have thrown in $20 to Planned Parenthood, there would have been more funding for Planned Parenthood from that than there was from the federal government. You're good, Seth. And so it's not, that doesn't, your argument that she's a private citizen doesn't hold any weight on that. You believe in killing a child who would otherwise live because it is not wanted. Lynn, I saw your comment earlier that you said that I am pro-choice and I'm afraid that you'd make me look like a dumbass. That's not what that's not the intent here, right? I hope you can see from the discussion from me and Seth that that's not the intent. I'm not here to belittle you. I'm here to have a discussion and provide you with information in the pursuance of bringing you to my side, right? If you've seen the Louder with Crowder change my mind, that's what I want. Irish, if you want to call in, Irish, you're more than welcome to call in. If you have other stuff that you really want to talk about, or if you even want to argue against what I was saying there with Seth, feel free to call in. The phone number is 802-671-5328. I'm here to try to help bring people to the side of it's absolutely 100% wrong and immoral. And that we need to move this back. We need to move this back wherever it is right now. And if I cannot get you to be 100% pro-life, then I can't get you to be 100% pro-life. But if I can provide you with information and bring you back on one little spot, one little tick, one little movement of where you are, I feel as if I would be successful for that day. Welcome in, Margaret or Colleen. That's the entire intent. The intent of abortion is to terminate a pregnancy, not to kill children. Let's have intellectual honesty. But regardless of what the intent, even if you were to say the intent is to terminate a pregnancy, that is the intent is to kill a life, to end a life of another. Irish, welcome in. Welcome onto the show. How are you doing tonight, man?
Very good, sir. I first of all have to mention it is a little sacrilegious doing this during the Super Bowl, but I'm bored in the game. So.
I mean, it's the Rams of the Patriots. What's happening? I mean, I walked in one time and I saw that the Rams had tackled the Patriot too hard, and so there was a flag thrown. Like we already know it's 12, at least 12 men on the field for the Patriots at all times. So it's okay.
Yeah. However, there's one specific aspect of the abortion debate that comes up time and time again, and there's two aspects of it. One is that men aren't allowed to have an opinion of it, and because we just don't know, and that, on its face, is telling that men, because of the nature of them being men, cannot have an opinion on something.
Yeah,
and that is something that, hey, women never voted before. They don't know what it's like. Why should they have a say on things?
Yeah, and it's one thing that I've been doing a lot lately is trying to conflate abortions with racism, and so when people say that, the same thing can be said of why can the white people speak out against racism against black people? Why can they speak out against racism of people of color? If it's not directly affecting them, how is it that they cannot be doing that? And certainly I think that the abortions do affect the men, but continue on.
The second aspect is the one that Lynn was starting to bring up, is that she says she doesn't think that abortion is right, but she can't say that it's bad. She can't legislate it out,
okay,
like stopping people from doing it because that's somebody else's choice. And the definition, it comes down to, and her definition was when a child was born. Sorry about the noise.
Oh, you're good.
We must be able to regulate certain levels of morality within society. And the idea that murder is wrong is a very well-established one within our society.
Yeah.
And to say that some sort of reason, like if you take the viability mark, that makes some sense, at least logically. However, that means it's a moving target, and it depends. A baby can be aborted in West Virginia at a different point than it can be aborted in California because of access to a hospital.
Yes. I think Montana would be a better pick for the weaker, but continue.
Sure, Montana, wherever you are.
Yeah.
Or middle of nowhere in Alaska, just because you can't get to a better hospital. Like, not all hospitals are created equal, and where I live, it's not nearly as good as where you're at.
Yeah.
However, it makes it inconsistent. Like viability. And one of the scholarly papers I read years and years ago, made an argument that if you are going to be pro-choice, the logical line for distinction is really like a year and a half to 2 years old of a child when they start developing memories.
Yeah.
That's the first really distinction in humanity. Because anyone that has a child, there's this sort of line where your kid sort of moves from being a slug to doesn't really understand what's going around to starting to understand the world. Yes.
And I mean, I've got a friend that's coming up to that, or a friend that has a child that's coming up to that age. So I mean, I experienced that with my daughter, and I'm experiencing that again right now.
Yeah. So if you want the moral consistency of it, that meets with that target. If it's an unwanted child up to a year and a half, 2 years old, authorize it to be killed because that's morally consistent.
Yeah. Which I think with the Northam comment, I mean that is a consistent with both what you're saying and with the entire consistency of what their views are, and I think that even the let's just call them the moderate abortionist. Even them, they would be like, that is disgusting, that is grotesque. And so it's amazing to me that there is a standard that people have of being okay with being inconsistent on things.
Well, I think that leads to a large number of people that don't actually analyze things on a moral level. That there's not moral absolute. They think that it's just sort of wish-washy, and whatever you think is really what it is. That's
yeah, nihilism is definitely an issue that is becoming more prevalent, I think. And you know, even me, I can even say that a lot of the secularism in this country has been a large contributor to that issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
lost train of thought there for a second.
You're good. But no, I mean, I think that's certainly right. That trying to bring it to people to their full extent, right? And certainly, I've never brought up that point that you brought, but I'm sure that, you know, once you can bring that up to them and be like, why don't you be consistent and bring that up, then I think that would also be an effective way of getting people to go, hey, you know what, maybe I actually do need to think about this. Maybe I do need to think this through. And whether you say, I don't want the government involved with it, right? If you're an anarchist or if you're just a left-winger trying to make excuses for it. But then we can at least say, well, can you at least admit that it's a life? Can you at least admit that life begins at conception? And we can have a more honest conversation about when is it okay to kill somebody else? And certainly just because out of convenience would never be a justifiable answer.
And some of the questions that I saw were how to legislate abortion, and it's a bit of a tricky one. The best suggestion for how to legislate it is, that I have found, is legislating doctors' actions.
Yes. I'm right there with you, right? I'm right there with you on that one.
So what you do is, because doctors are expected to know the moral guidelines of what they're doing. There's a constant review of that. There's constant practices and established system for handling moral issues within the medical field.
Yeah.
I don't believe in punishing women who have gotten abortions, and especially not ones going in the past when it was legal.
Yes.
And I think people bring up the idea that you're going to go put a whole bunch of women in jail. No, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Plus, I think that if it was moved to being illegal, it would take generations for it to be moved into the psyche that it's actually wrong.
Yes.
Like, people will think, there will still be a group of people that will think it's not wrong. So it's, and a system that has trained them that it's not wrong.
Yeah.
Like, the government system has told them that for years.
Yeah.
So,
no, I'm right there with you.
Which leads us to a similar transition, since you want to relate it to racism, is that I view abortion, and I don't feel this from someone, I'm not sure where I got it. Abortion will be the civil rights of our time. Our generation's movement is the elimination of abortion, because it is the great evil of our society that it currently exists.
You know, I dropped something on Facebook the other day to something similar to that effect. I don't think I used the civil rights. I think I used like the atrocity of like World War II, like killing the Jews and everything else, like just an attempt on genocide. But
it is genocide, but it's more of a moral development for society than that one.
Yeah.
There was a group of people that allowed the travesties of World War II and such to happen, but it wasn't a worldwide development on a moral level.
Yeah.
There was an opposition. There was a violent opposition to that. There is no violent opposition to abortion.
Yeah. I think that would be a contradictory thing, right?
People bring up bombing abortion clinics. It's not a common thing.
Yes.
Not even close.
Yep. So I gotta ask. So Bobby, if you'll just respond in the chat, are you willing to call in? Because you said there you go again. Are you willing to call in? If you are, I will gladly invite Irish to give up the line for you to call in, because I know that you've tried to contradict everything. But so just respond in the chat if you do. We'll. In the meantime, I do want to continue with Irish because he is extremely wise and all that. So, but I think that there's just so much in this topic, right? And the excuses being made in favor of allowing abortion. I see this with a lot of. I mean, really, it's based all on feelings, and even I think that some of the better arguments are. I wouldn't even say the better arguments. Some of the less crappy arguments really revolve around what is morality, because I think morality is something, right? If you are religious, you believe that morality comes from the Bible, it comes from the God, it comes from that whole era. But somebody who's secular, it makes it much more difficult to get on board with that if that's not something that they do. And so, what would be without using morality, how would you fight against the pro-choice argument?
So, without morality, we're left with the idea that whether or not humans have rights or not, and whether our society should grant humans rights at all, and what protections the government should give to people. And then you have to go to the legal definition of what a person is. I mean, it boils down to the same argument without morality. Because I first of all think that everyone agrees people should be defended from other people.
Yeah,
that's a libertarian, that's a leftist, that's a universal.
Yeah, I mean that's a basic, fundamental core value of what the government's supposed to be doing, right? Is to protect people and to protect the sovereignty.
Yeah. So once you have that as a given, you have to define who should be protected. Yeah. Just from a legalism standpoint. And then you're very quickly at the line of, when is a fetus a human being? When does it get those rights?
Yeah.
Because you have to have a definition in order to write laws.
Yep.
That's pretty straightforward. But as far as the existence of absolute morality and some moral laws, one example that I have that I like a lot is electricity. And follow me for a second.
Okay.
Electricity has existed forever. It's been around us as human beings forever. But we did not know how to harness it until very, very recent in history.
Yes.
Right? And it has always existed. Once we discovered it, we use it for all sorts of great things. And I view morality as the exact same thing. Slavery was almost universal in society. We discovered that it was evil, we developed that it was evil, and now we've moved on. And we now embrace that slavery should not happen.
That's
it's
a really
exactly
good point.
The same as anything.
That's what it was. It was actually slavery. That's what the Facebook post was. I said that. So I use slavery, right? You use civil rights. I use slavery. And said that we look back at the slavery and we see that as repugnant and disgusting and reprehensible. And in 100 years, hopefully, in 50 years, hopefully, we'll be looking at our generation right now. We'll be looking at the world of today and thinking the same exact thing. And I hope that we can do that. I hope that by that time we'll be able to make that transition. It does look like Bobby 46 said he's willing to call in. So I'm going to, if you don't mind, I appreciate you calling in, man. I always love the insight. I always love the views. Thank you so much for calling in tonight.
Yeah, have a good night, man.
All right, you as well. All right, Bobby 46, if you want to call in, the phone number is 802-671-5328. Feel free to call in. We will hold up the show for a little bit longer if you want to call in. Moved on and we're all enslaved. I agree, we are still enslaved by the government. This is why I'm a libertarian. I want to fight against the slavery of the state and everything else. Slavery is rampant in Africa. Yes, Stump 41, I completely agree with you. The slavery issue has been an issue that's still going on in the world, but for generally speaking, here in America, it has been removed with regards to or with the exception of what we have in the 13th Amendment, which allows for slavery for crimes. But yes, Bobby, if you would like to call in, the phone number is 802-671-5328. Society needs to change. News in Hollywood needs to change back to our values. I would love for the value of caring for people to come back. I think that that's certainly one of the core aspects that is led to so many people being in favor of abortion or being in favor of hitting the other side, is that we don't value life anymore. We don't value individual liberty. And certainly there's an event coming on February 17th. I will be hopefully being able to do an interview at one of the events in which there is some people going against individual liberty down here. And I will be going there and hopefully being able to get not only the people organizing this event, but also some of the protesters there, get them on and be able to have these discussions. So But nonetheless, yes, I'm awaiting that wonderful phone call from you, sir. Kelsey, it is the 17th. It is Sunday the 17th. So if you guys are in the Five Forks area of South Carolina on the 17th, we have an event which I will be there. You guys can come meet me there. You can protest it or come and get involved on the inside. I'm not going to give too much information on it yet, but it'll be a good time. So, Bobby, are you gonna keep me waiting, man? I'm waiting. I'm waiting for you. Waiting for you, Mr. Bobby. I see you still sitting in the room. Bobby 46. Yes, my wife will be out there protesting, but nonetheless, I will be there. She will be there. It'll be a good time. I'm there to have discussions, to do like what we're doing tonight. I would rather have discussions and remove some of the dividedness, remove some of the hatred, remove some of the visceral hatred of the other side, and be able to open this up. Salmonella is alive. Sure, by biology standards, salmonella is alive, and we can talk about exactly everything that biology says is life, but the difference between life and human life are certainly the defining characteristics on this discussion. Jesus Christ from YouTube land, if you'd like to call in as well. I don't know where you stand. Vicious News Network, welcome in. We've all been living beneath our rightful place to be greater in the higher places. I like that. You may stop and protest on your way up to North Carolina. Ooh, that'd be awesome. It'd be nice to see you out there, Pat, if you want to come up. If a fetus is a life legally, I better get pregnant before my taxes are due. Ooh, Lynn makes a good point. If you get pregnant, Kelsey, to my wife, Kelsey, we have not filed our taxes yet. We should put 2 dependents down because it is a life, right? Ooh. Bobby, welcome in. Good sir. I am glad that you called in. How are you doing tonight?
You said I wasn't going to call.
I wanted to encourage you to call.
It takes a while, absolutely. It's not that easy to just call.
I agree. But I had to push the issue. I had to get you to call. So I'm thankful. I am genuinely grateful that you called in. Thank you for calling in tonight.
Yeah, I bet you are.
So
what is it you want?
So I know that you are a little bit on the pro-choice side, maybe even a little more than a little, and I wanted to actually have a discussion with you because I've reading your comments. Certainly, there's a little bit of a delay between the time that I say something and when you see it, and then also when you're able to respond. And so I wanted to actually have a discussion. What is your stance? What is your stance for the abortion?
I'm pro-choice. So what? What's wrong with that? Most Americans are pro-choice. Bearded wonder, or whatever they call you.
Okay, so
in case you didn't know that. In fact, you're in the minority by far.
That's fine. The minority versus majority doesn't
right?
dictate if it's a good.
You know that though, right?
It doesn't matter.
You realize that.
That doesn't matter. So when it comes to a situation like this,
asking you, do you know that? Are you aware of that? Because you sit there and you go on and on and on.
The purpose,
I don't even think you know that you're in the minority.
So you're saying that the majority should rule over the minority? Is that what you're saying?
No, not at all.
So it doesn't matter if it's the majority or the minority.
You're in the minority.
Does it matter if it's the majority or the minority, or does it matter if the argument is better?
I totally understand what you're saying, but when you talk on your show, you go on and on and on without even realizing that you're way in the minority. That most Americans.
But that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, because what does matter? What does matter?
The grand scheme.
Does it matter? Does it matter more to have better ideas or to have worse ideas?
Oh my God! There we go again. The grand scheme.
Well, I mean, you could stand for atrocities, or you can actually have good values and good ideas.
Oh God!
So
I'm just like I said, I'm pro-choice, and so are most Americans.
Where is your line? Where is your line in which a child can be aborted?
My line is the same as everybody else's. I mean,
No. Everyone's line differs. That's absolute false that you just said. Because you even said I was in the minority. My line is at birth. So
when you go into a clinic, they tell you, they lay out.
So are you saying that each state doesn't have a different time of when abortions are allowed?
Each state does, but a woman has a right to make a choice when she goes in. She knows the line.
No. So you're saying that there is no line? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm not gonna. I can't speak for each woman that's pregnant, and neither can you.
My discussion is with you. It's not with others. I wanted to have a one-on-one.
You and I can't speak. But you know good and well, you and I can't speak for each woman that's pregnant.
I'm not asking you to speak for anyone. I'm asking you to speak for yourself.
Yes, you are.
I'm asking you to speak for yourself. What are your views?
Which is really stupid. I told you I'm pro-choice.
And I asked you to what line, and you have failed to identify or to define anything.
I can't answer that, and neither could you, because we're not women. I mean, if we went into that clinic as men, how could we answer that question? Because we're not pregnant.
So my question to you then, my question to you,
stupid question.
My question to you then is, if somebody's being racist, and I,
you don't really want to talk about abortion, do you?
I do want to, but I think that you have deflected everything.
Right, even though you're in the minority.
You want to deflect everything, and you want to go to a bandwagon fallacy. You want to go to the bandwagon fallacy. My question to you is, if something is not directly affecting you, so I'm going to assume that you're white. So if racism against a black person happens, it doesn't directly affect you. Why do you have a say on it?
Okay, wait, we're changing to racism?
I'm asking you because I want to take the same logic that you just used and apply it to other situations to understand why it is that you can defend somebody else, but you won't defend an innocent child.
Are we changing the topic to racism now?
Well, I mean, you don't want to talk about abortion. That's been clear by your deflections. So I would like to at least take the logic. I want to take at least your logic.
You're just lying. I answered your abortion.
No, you have not. Where's your line?
I was pro-choice.
You said that you're lying. You said that you're lying.
Most Americans are. I said I was pro-choice, and I said most Americans are. I said you're in the minority, and you didn't seem to like that. That's my answer.
Because that doesn't matter. It doesn't.
If you or I were to go into a clinic, they would just say, "You guys aren't pregnant. What are y'all doing here?" And now, if we were going with somebody else, that we were going there with them, but we couldn't make that decision for them, as you well know. So I don't know what you're trying to push.
Okay, so back in.
Now, if you want to change the debate to race, we could do that.
All right, let's ignore that then. Let's move on to this. So you're in 1940.
Okay, can you hang on just a second? Bearded Wonder. Hold on just a second. Hold on. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so let's go back to Germany. If you're sitting by, you're not a Jew, and
Germany.
Hold on. Simmer down. Let's apply your logic. Let's apply your logic to other situations and see if you maintain a consistent position on this stuff. Is it okay for you to tell the Germans that you don't get to kill the Jews? Is it okay for you to take that stance?
So you did say Germany?
Yeah.
Okay, what about Germany?
So you're sitting in Germany back during World War II when the Jews are being exterminated, attempted genocide. Is it okay for you to take the stance and say, look, Germans, you can't kill the Jews, look, Nazis, you can't kill the Jews because it's wrong for you to kill people? Or do you say, well, it doesn't affect me, and remain consistent on your abortion stance and say, because it's not affecting me, you guys go ahead and kill all the Jews you want to?
So now we're going back to the Holocaust we're switching from racism to the Holocaust now?
Well, because you refuse to understand that your logic is completely inconsistent. You refuse to actually.
It's not my logic. You asked me a simple question. I answered it. You didn't like my answer.
So you
and
don't.
I don't blame you.
So you're saying that this is not your logic. You're saying that this is not your logic. Then
you don't like the fact that you're in the minority on this. Why would you? I mean,
so you don't like the fact that you have to work off of fallacies.
Your show is. You sit there and you go, Trump, I don't agree with everything Trump says. Trump, you don't agree with, but you know what? Trump's a great guy. He did this great thing today. That's how stupid your show is. That's why I sit there with my comments. And, you're such a hypocrite. It's incredible. I mean, give me a break, man.
I love it. I love that you took all these situations, you went to Trump with it. It just shows your Trump derangement syndrome. But that's fine, right? Because I understand that you can't slap wrists and pat backs. You can't be objective about things. You've shown that to be clear.
Oh, I can't. You're
hold on. I know. Hold on. So, anyways, going back to the better discussion. When it comes to this, you said this wasn't your logic. Are you at least going to admit? Are you at least going to admit that you do not have any of your own logic? Are you going to at least admit that you don't have any of your own logic and that you just take the programming from the mainstream media, you take the programming from CNN, you take the programming from MSNBC, you take the programming from New York Times, from the Washington Post, and you take everything that you can, and you take all of this and you just regurgitate it, and you believe that this is oh, it's all about the majority. It's all about the majority. You fall into this bandwagon fallacy and where you believe that because more people believe in atrocious things, but because more people believe in being immoral or killing the innocent, that you shouldn't stand in the way of that. But whenever I pointed out to other atrocities that I ask you, could you remain consistent on this? You refuse to answer those, and so you deflect even from those. It's amazing. No, hold on. You don't get a lie. You don't get a lie about this stuff. So when I brought up racism, you said, "Well, I can't." How dare you bring it over to this situation? When I brought it over to the Germans, you also were like, "I can't." It's not the same situation. I can't. You refuse to remain consistent on anything, and I think that that's certainly a huge issue. And I think it's something that I hope that one day you'll be able to come through and be able to figure it out. So I hope that one day you'll be able to sit down and be able to remain consistent. I appreciate you for calling in, but I apologize that you've refused. I'm not hanging up on you. I'm just letting you know. I appreciate you for calling in, and I hope that one day you'll be able to sit down and actually think things through and be able to have a bone of consistency about yourself. All right, he just hung up on me. I did not hang up on him, and that is the way that the cookie crumbles, guys. I tried. You guys saw that I was trying to show him that even attempting to be consistent, even attempting to use his logic consistently would show that he was going to be on the wrong side of history for other events, such as for racism, such as for I wanted to bring up the slavery topic, but we didn't get that time, for standing up against the Nazis when they were attempting to commit genocide against the Jews, right? When you have that thing and you say, look, if you are not directly a victim of this, if you are not directly involved in these situations, then you have no ownership. There's no call for you to get involved, and I think that that's certainly wrong. I want a society where we say, look, we stand against aggressions, we stand against the oppression of people, regardless on if it's a fetus or if it's an adult or a child, whoever it is. I think that we should all be trying to advocate for a better world where people are being protected, and certainly, right, we can see that when you don't really have the logic, when you don't have your own logic and you haven't thought this through, you can't be consistent. And so this is the big calling. And I know Bobby's not going to, after hanging up on me, I think that Bobby's certainly not going to be somebody that is going to think this through. He's going to be he's going to hate me even more. He'll hate other people even more, and that's fine. I'm hoping one day he'll come through come through maturity a little bit and think things through, be irrational, utilize that brain up there, use the logic and understand, hey, maybe we should be fighting to protect people, even if we disagree with them. Maybe we should be going out there and trying to advocate for freedom of speech, freedom of life, and protecting all life, regardless of who it is. But it is what it is, guys. I appreciate you guys all for coming in. I know we ran the show a little bit late. I hope you guys enjoyed the calls. We'll try and do this again on Tuesday night, maybe. We might try and do a pro-gun debate. That would be a fun one. He's making a bearded voodoo doll right now. So I hope you guys all have a great night. Hopefully you guys will enjoy the rest of the Super Bowl. I'm going to probably go check out some of the commercials. Hopefully they're worth it.
They're funny.
They are funny? All right. So I've got one review that they are funny. That's the only review I've ever seen. But I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of your night, enjoyed your weekend, and I will see you guys Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. I am Mr. Murica. The Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Oh, by the way, it might be Bearded Wonder now as well. But have a great night, guys. I will see you guys on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. I am Mr. Merca, The Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon.